Welcome back to the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. My name is Lydia and I am your host and a wedding photographer at Lydia Rachel Photography. I hope you're all doing well. We are at that time of the year where everyone's kind of starting to go back to work, so I hope 2025 is treating you well so far. And you might be picking up your wedding planning again, or your day might be just around the corner, so I'm so excited if that is you. We're in the thick of wedding season and it's so cool to see everyone's photos popping up every week and just all the amazing weddings this summer. If you have someone you'd love to see on the podcast, send me a DM and we'll see if we can make it happen. I'd love to share all different types of weddings, big, small, high and low budget, and especially if you did something a little different than the norm. On today's episode, I'm chatting to the lovely Renee. She was recently married at the Black Walnut wedding venue and is a beauty therapist based in Mount Maunganui. You can find her at Beauty by Renee. She had a relatively quick engagement and had some amazing help from local vendors and family and friends. We go through the whole process and experience and also chat a bit about pre-wedding skin prep and planning your beauty routine in the lead up to your wedding. It's a goodie. Make sure you pop over to Instagram to see some of Renee's wedding photos. It was photographed by Ruby Hamilton. Beautiful work, and you can find them at the Kiwi Wedding Podcast on Instagram. So let's get right into it. Enjoy episode 78 with Renee. Hi Renee, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. To get started with, if you could just tell me a bit about you and your partner, how you guys met and your life together.
So we matched on Bumble and Tinder back in 2017. We were just kind of like chatting on Instagram. He was living in the Mount and I was in Auckland. So we just kind of stayed as friends. We both traveling quite a lot. He was traveling for work. I was going back to London quite a bit. And so we just kind of stayed as friends, but I think just the fact that we're in different cities made it a little bit harder to just casually meet up. And then about a year and a half later, he was in Auckland and we were chatting and he was like, oh, like, do you want to go for a coffee? And I was like, yeah, sweet. Like, why not? Like, sounds good. I met him for a coffee and he was just super cool, really chill. And that went on for about 3 hours. And then he actually took the day off work the next day for us to hang out, which was really cool. But that point in my life, I was kind of still figuring out what I was doing. I had recently moved back from London and I was just like, don't know what to do with my life. So I was actually potentially going to move to Australia. I was just deciding whether it was going to be like Sydney or Melbourne. So I kind of told him like, I don't really know what I want at this stage. So I kind of just want to be friends. And he took it really well. He was really cool about it. Still chatting as friends. And then a couple months later, there was a gig in the Mount and I was meant to come down with a friend and she couldn't make it for whatever reason. And he was like, why don't you just still come down? Me and all my friends are going, you can come with us. It'll be cool. You can stay with me. I've got like a spare room, no pressure, won't try anything. So I was like, awesome. Came down and I think seeing him in a different environment all around his friends, he was way more like comfortable and confident. And by the end of the weekend, I think spending all that time with him, like things started to kind of change for me. And he just said a couple of things that I was like, oh, just kind of sparked a little bit of jealousy. And I was like, oh, what's that? Like, why am I like feeling these things? And then I kind of was like, nah, like I like this guy, like I'm keen. And then as soon as I let him know, he was like, sweet. It was just all on from there. And then lockdown happened, which was maybe like a couple months into us just starting dating. So I was actually here for a weekend when they announced lockdown. So I ended up staying. And then by the end of it, he was like, why don't you move down? You can work from here, all that sort of thing. And that was 4 years ago. 4 years ago that I moved down. And now we have a 2-year-old. So just our weekends are just spent like beach, every single playground, probably in Tauranga that we've been to, and just hang out with friends.
Oh, so good. Such a nice lifestyle down there, especially for like young families. Love that. So you guys were together for quite a while and then got engaged. Can you tell us a bit about your proposal story?
I knew that the proposal was going to come at some point. I knew that he had found a ring. I'd actually gone and tried it on. I just had no idea when it was going to happen. And I was kind of waiting for a few months. So I'd kind of like forgotten about it a little bit. And it was Mother's Day weekend. And he was like, oh, do you want to go for a picnic or something? And in my mind, I was already like, oh, not something he would normally do. So I was like, okay, maybe this could be something. And then the next night, we put our son down to sleep, and every now and then we'll like go on our phones afterwards and look at like photos of him and stuff like that, as you do. And we were looking at photos on his phone, and then we went to like the next picture, and it was him holding the ring box with the ring, and I was like, "What is that?" And he was like, oh nah, like that's just at the jewelers. I just went to like look at it again. And I was like, that's like your studio. Like I could tell like that was in his work. And so the whole of the next day I was like, okay, it's gonna be this picnic, he's gonna like propose and all this sort of thing. And I was just daydreaming the whole day. And initially when I had looked at the ring, I had said to him, I was like, because I know what the ring looks like, it would be really cool if it was a surprise. Like that's kind of all I really would want, was just as long as it was a surprise. Fast forward to me like daydreaming, thinking this whole picnic was going to happen, and I was about to go for dinner with the girls. I was putting on my makeup, and he just walks in. My friend's like, I'm in your driveway. And I'm like, cool, be up, like, be right out. He comes into the room, sits down next to me, and I'm like, what? And he gets down on one knee and just proposes, like, then and there, as I'm about to leave. It was amazing. I was, like, in shock. Was like, do I go out for dinner with the girls? Like, what do I do? And he's like, no, like, go, and, like, you can tell them and stuff. So went out for dinner with the girls, and I was in the car, like, hiding my hand, like, very like, how am I going to do this? We're all giddy. And then we get to dinner. We had to wait for one of the other girls to arrive. She got there, and then I just literally am like, show my hand. They see the ring, and everyone's just squealing, and we're all like, ah, just frothing. The whole restaurant is staring at us, and they're like, why are you here? Like, why aren't you at home? Anyway, so um, go home, and then the next day we organized my mother-in-law to look after my son, and then we went for like a long lunch and like a beach walk. So we're able to kind of celebrate it, and it was something nice and special. But yeah, it was still a surprise, not like your standard kind of proposal, but it was still amazing nonetheless.
Oh, so good. I love that story. And had you been one of those girls that always dreamed about your wedding? Did you know what you wanted, have kind of a vision in mind for it? And yeah, what were those first steps like finding a venue?
To be honest, I never was one of those people that always dreamed about my wedding. If anything, I always dreamed of like eloping and just having something really low key and special, just the two of us. I think budget was something that I was like, what I want, I probably will not be able to afford. And yeah, so again, it just wasn't something that I always dreamed about. But leading, once we found the ring, I had already started to think about what things I wanted. So I kind of knew what venue I wanted, which was the Black Walnut in Tauranga. It's a really stunning venue with like they have lots of different areas where you can get married, but the area that I love specifically is like a glass house, and they have white bougainvillea, so like lots of nice green foliage inside the glass house. And so I knew I wanted that. And so as soon as we got engaged, I reached out to them and was like, do you have any availability? They had, I think, 3 dates left for the rest of the year. I actually wasn't thinking there would be any availability. And then I was like, cool, like, can we just like lock in like a date to come view it? And so he was like, yeah, we can organize a date. We turned up to this viewing. I actually had food poisoning, but I was like, I don't want to miss this. Like, I want to see this venue. Like, dying in the car, I had like a bowl to like, just in case I was sick. Fortunately, the guy actually forgot that the viewing was then and there, and he wasn't there. So we just had a bit of a wander around. And then I was like, okay, no, we definitely want to get married here. So I emailed the guy afterwards and locked in November. So that was about 6 months from our engagement. And then, yeah, once we locked in the venue, I was just like, okay, cool. Knew what photographer I wanted, knew what caterers I wanted, florist, all that sort of thing. So it kind of just all flowed from there.
So did you have the those kind of priorities in your mind? Like what were the most important elements on the day for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was definitely the first thing was the dress. My maid of honor, she's a bridal dressmaker, a local one, Lulu Jackson Bridal, and I'd always like we'd always talked about it, like oh, like what would I have, blah blah. So that 100% was like my number one priority was like the dress. But again, yeah, like the food. Knew I wanted really good food. Her brother actually has his own catering company, no biggie. So we're like definitely want that, and yeah, just kind of just all flowed from there. But those were my main priorities. Yeah, definitely food, dress, and photography.
Some amazing vendors in the Bay of Plenty. It's super helpful having the Lulu Jackson connection as well. And yeah, that was my next question, just about your wedding outfits. How was that whole process?
Yeah, so initially I knew I wanted two dresses, one for the ceremony and then a little mini one for like the dancing aspect. Um, I kind of knew the rough like idea of what I wanted, which is quite a simple dress and then like a little skirt attachment at the back. And then working with Lulu, she was like, obviously she knows me super well. She was like, why don't we do like a bow? And I was like, oh my God, 100%. Yes, love it. So she had made a really big bow and then a smaller bow to go on the back, like at the top of the train. And we had arranged a fitting with all my bridesmaids so that they could see my dress and that I could see all their dresses that she was making as well. And when we got to her house, she had the dress on a mannequin and she had the big bow at the back. And then she had the little bow that she made just resting on the shoulder so that she could like switch it out and show them. And then they were like, "Oh my God, like why don't you just have that as a dress? Like have the dress, like the silhouette, take the train off, but then have the little bow on the shoulder." And I was just like, "Oh my God, 100%, like sold. It's amazing." So that ended up being the second dress. So after the ceremony, I took off the train and the big bow, and then I just put the little bow on my shoulder. Which meant that I could, walk around, not worry if people were, too close behind me and all that sort of thing. And then for the dancing, I had a little mini dress which Lulu and I designed together, and that was really cute. And I think just being able to do it with your best friend is just like such a crazy experience that won't ever happen again. It's not something that happens normally, and it's just so special. She knows exactly what I like, and I had absolute trust in her. So it was like my absolute dream dresses.
Oh, so good. That's so nice to hear that experience. I think it can be a really overwhelming part of wedding planning for some people, and quite like a vulnerable experience as well if you're getting your dress made and just having someone that knows you really well. So helpful. And can you tell us a bit about the big day? How did it all go down? And yeah, any like highlights or favorite moments?
We had the venue from the day before. So on the Friday, our wedding was on the Saturday. And with that venue, they actually give you the venue for the whole weekend, which is quite cool. And they do all the setting up for you. So on the Friday, when we got there, the whole table, like all the linens, all the cutlery, all the plates, everything was already set up. So we just had to go in and just do a few things, which was really helpful. Um, I think as well, I had been super organized in the lead up to it. Like I'd gotten everything pretty much sorted quite early on. Another one of my bridesmaids, she is like super like good at organizing, does events all the time. So she was literally like a wedding planner for me. Um, to the point where like as soon as I got engaged, we started like a Pinterest board together, and then she ended up doing like a Canva presentation and was like, okay, this is the color palette, these are the florals that are in season, these are the floral arrangements that you like, this is the table setting that you like. And just having that made everything so seamless because I knew what I wanted, exactly like the vibe, all that sort of thing. um, and again, yeah, having the venue the day before, we were able to get all that sorted. The day of, we was very chill, just hair and makeup, and everything was pretty much done. There were a few hiccups to do with the mic and the speaker. There was only one speaker, and we were having like drinks in one area, ceremony one area, reception another area. So it meant like moving the mic around and the speaker. But my bridesmaids just like took that on board, completely sussed that. I knew it was happening, but I kind of they just were like, no, don't worry about it. We've got it sussed. So it was really nice and cruisy on the day. I felt really chill. I'd say my favorite part was when my dad was walking me down the aisle, and Matt was like standing at the end of the aisle. I think that's just such a surreal moment. You know, you're walking down the aisle, you look up and you see everyone that you love and you care about, and it's just so special. Yeah, and I think the other part which I really loved was when we were saying our vows. Matt and I had actually said our vows to each other the day before, just because it's like a little bit more intimate. We're both really nervous, or me particularly, and that took away a lot of our nerves by just saying it to each other, and also making sure that it's kind of similar vibe as well. So yeah, when we said our vows to each other, I wasn't nervous at all, and it was literally like I was just facing him, and there were these massive tall trees behind him, and all that was just like a blur. Like we were just in our own little bubble, which I loved. But yeah, there's so many special moments of the day. It's hard to really pinpoint, but I'd say those are probably the two that really stand out.
Oh, so good. I love that. That's a great idea doing the vows, just the two of you, like having that special moment alone before as well, and then, yeah, calm you a bit for the actual day. And what did you find the hardest part about the whole wedding planning process? Is there anything you look back on and regret or would do a bit differently?
No, I think, to be honest, I thought the whole process would be super stressful, but I think because I was very organized from the start, knowing that we had such a short engagement, I had to make really quick decisions. Um, that it just, yeah, it wasn't hard. And I think also maybe probably the fact that, you know, a lot of my bridesmaids were really helpful in that. Probably the one thing that I would say I kind of regret is our photographer. I had her for 5 hours. And she was like, on the day, you know, if you want to do an extra couple hours, I totally can. You know, I'll just ask you and you just say. And I think at that time, I was like, oh no, it's all good. Like, I feel like we've gotten everything. But in hindsight, I do wish she had stayed, not all the way to the end, but gotten some photos of everyone, like after the reception, like, you know, on the dance floor, that kind of thing would have been nice. But it's not the end of the world. We still have amazing photos. And those other ones are more just kind of, you know, memories now. So, yeah.
Can only kind of figure these things out in hindsight. But yeah, your photos I've seen are stunning anyway. It looks like such a beautiful day. And did you guys have a budget that you were sticking to? If you're happy to talk about that, what was that process like for you?
Yeah. So we were very, very fortunate where my parents contributed massively to the wedding. They helped out with both of my sisters. So they were like, we'll definitely do it for you. And that was something that, one, I didn't expect because we were happy to completely do something more low key. But obviously, it was amazing that they were able to contribute, and that they were happy to. Um, so budget wise, it was actually a little bit less than we had kind of anticipated, but only because we had a lot of our friends helping us out for the wedding. We had a friend of ours that was a celebrant. Our friend of ours did the flowers. My bridesmaid did the cake. Obviously, my other bridesmaid did the dress. My husband and a friend of ours was the DJ. So we had a lot of people help out, which kind of skewed the numbers a bit. I feel like if we were paying that, it probably would have been like an extra 10 to 15k more, but it was around like the 50k mark, a little bit less than that, of what we ended up paying.
Pretty normal these days. And yeah, so good when you can kind of call on your community, people, you know, your friends have those talents. So yeah, so helpful for sure. And did you guys go on honeymoon straight away? What did planning that look like?
Yeah, we did. So initially we were going to wait. Well, I wanted to wait until the end of summer to go for something. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to have something to look forward to after summer. But then we spoke to friends of ours who had gone away, had waited a bit of a gap before going on their honeymoon. And they were like, it almost just seemed like a normal holiday, not necessarily our honeymoon. So we're like, okay, actually, we can both take time off work. Um, you know, if we can do it, like, why not? So we ended up going to Hawaii for a week. We went, I think, like 3 days after the wedding. We kind of gave ourselves a few days just to get like my son organized, because we had, you know, parents looking after him, that sort of thing. And that was really nice because it just prolonged the whole like wedding process. You know, it felt like it was, you know, almost like a 2 week affair type thing, just because we had the honeymoon straight after. In terms of planning it, I was like, I just can't. Like, I was like, dealing with my own business. My husband has his own business. we're planning a wedding and I'm trying to organize a toddler in amongst that, I was like, I just don't have the brain capacity to do that. Fortunately, my husband had been there before, I hadn't. So he kind of knew what to do, what there was to do there, and that sort of thing. And literally all I wanted to do was just like lay on a beach, catch up on 2 years of lack of sleep, and like read a book. So that's literally what we did. We actually wanted to go, well, I wanted to go for a little bit longer than the 7 days because I thought that, I'd want like at least like 2 weeks type thing. But I feel like in Hawaii, there's only so much that you can do. And like day 5, day 6, we're like, okay, we want to come back home and we want to see like our son. Like we really miss him. So it was actually really well timed. And yeah, just a really nice, chill holiday.
Sounds so dreamy, such a beautiful spot to go. And in the whole process, was there any sort of helpful websites, resources, different things that you used for inspiration or finding vendors, anything like that?
Yeah, so I use Pinterest a lot, and I feel like that was really helpful in terms of figuring out what things I liked, especially for like setting the tables, that kind of thing. So yeah, Pinterest, Canva. I use Paperless Post for our invites, and that was quite good because they figure out all your RSVPs as well, and then you can also like send more emails from that about like transport or whatever afterwards. So I found that was really helpful.
Nice, some good ones there, definitely. And yeah, do you have any advice that you would give or you would tell a friend that's engaged at the moment?
I think when you're planning, there were a couple of moments when I was stressing out things that, in the scheme of things, don't actually matter. Like, for example, the name tags that go on the place settings. Matt was designing them. I was telling him kind of what I wanted, like the size, the font, all that kind of thing. And the size of it was just a little bit too big, and I was just getting really in my head with that, and I was like, it's not perfect, like I want it to be a little bit smaller and then a little bit smaller, and I was literally stressing about it for 2 hours, and then I was like, actually, no one is even going to look at this, like people will use it to look to find their place, and that's it. And then I was like, okay, I need to just rein it in and just not stress about things that don't even notice. And in the end, obviously it was totally fine because it's just one of those things that don't even really matter. Another thing I'd say would be make sure, like, just try and be in the moment. I have a lot of my clients were like, the day goes by really fast. Make sure you take time away with Matt, even if it's for like 10 minutes, and just take it all in. And I think because of so many people were telling me that, I just really took it on board. And I felt like I was so present the entire day because I was like, I need to make sure that I'm taking it all in. So every kind of little moment that I remembered, I was just like looking at everything and just yeah. And I think that was massive. I think because the day didn't go by too fast. I felt like I was making the most of it. Yeah, so that was huge. There's one other tip. Oh yeah. Um, the other thing is if you have people around you that are able to help out, especially on the day, definitely make the most of it. Like just all the help you can get just to take the weight off your shoulders and to just clear your mind a little bit will really help.
Yeah, such good advice. Just, yeah, call on your community and kind of give up that control and be present on the day. Yeah, I love that. And what is married life like now? Do you feel like you got any of the post-wedding blues?
I don't think we got the post wedding blues only because I think we've just had our honeymoon, just got back. It's coming up to Christmas. I love Christmas, so I'm kind of like I went from one thing to being excited about something else. I think if we had nothing else afterwards, I probably would have had them. Married life, I feel like kind of the exact same, but also at the same time, you've just had this amazing experience, just the two of you, where you've like confessed your love in front of everyone that you love. So I feel like I'm still kind of almost on a high from that. And I think as well, maybe just the fact that we have a 2 year old, it was really important for us to have time alone, just the two of us. And I feel like we're just still, yeah, still just on a high from that.
It's a rare thing when you're a parent of that age group.
Totally.
Good that you can have that time away and good timing. I feel like for your wedding as well, just like going into Christmas, summer holidays, more to be excited about. Amazing. That is so cool to hear all about your wedding. And you kind of touched on that you have a business as well, which I wanted to ask you about. So wondering if you could tell me a bit about your sort of history. What's the journey that's led you to where you are today?
So I've been a beauty therapist for almost 19 years. Um, I spent about 6 years of that in London, and then I moved back beginning of 2017, and then yeah. Since meeting Matt, he was like, why don't you move down? You can start your own business. It was always something that was really daunting to me, but I think I'd never thought about it as like having a home-based business. I'd always ever thought of it as having like a salon and having staff, which I had worked in managerial roles, and that kind of almost turned me off working with other people and having to manage people. So I think, yeah, I just hadn't ever thought of it as having like a home based salon. And him being in business just made things a lot easier. In terms of doing a business plan and that kind of thing, he really helped me with that. So, yeah, I started my own business, and that was 4 years ago now.
Amazing. And yeah, so you started Beauty by Renee. Can you tell us kind of what you do, what sort of treatments you offer for people?
Yep, so I mainly offer facials and brows. With the type of facials that I do, my main focus is relaxation and also using really active skincare as well. I feel like the two really complement each other. When I was working in London, I had a lot of clients that were really stressed out, and a lot of it would show on their skin. So I know it's so important to make sure that, if you can help with that stress as much as possible, your skin will actually be better. So having more calming sort of facials to really calm the nervous system is actually really important. The other thing which I really focus on as well is educating my clients. There's so much information, whether it's Instagram, all that sort of thing, or clients will go to Mecca, speak to someone that isn't necessarily a skin specialist, only really knows like a handful of brands that aren't necessarily cosmeceuticals or active skincare brands. Or it might be a client who, has a friend that has used this product that's amazing and everyone raves about it. It's got heaps of reviews, but obviously everyone's skin is so different. So I really focus on explaining to a client how their skin works, and just also educating about skin products as well. I think is really important.
So good. I love that. And yeah, I have to ask, I feel like it's one thing that brides all want to know, like, what should I do in the lead up to my wedding to have the best skin possible? Do I need to do like a treatment plan, a facial every week or month? Or yeah, do you have any kind of tips on what people can do in that lead up?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really depends on your budget. Some people want to have a facial every month in the lead up to their wedding. Some people can only afford like one or two. Both are amazing. I'd say if your main concern is something like pigmentation or acne, you probably do need like a longer sort of treatment plan, which obviously costs a little bit more money, and also invest in products. Whereas if your skin's pretty normal, you can probably get away with like just a couple facials before the wedding. Things like LED, gentle chemical peels, and needling are all amazing. One other thing would be making sure that you're taking supplements for your skin. So, for example, your essential fatty acids. So, you've got evening primrose oil, fish oil, or flaxseed oil. With evening primrose oil, that's amazing for inflammation. So, if you do get the occasional breakout, it's really good for hormonal balance as well. So any of your essential fatty acids are really good for like plumping the skin, really hydrating the skin from the inside out. Zinc also really amazing if you are prone to getting breakouts. Probiotics, and obviously drinking heaps of water is really important. Another thing would be making sure that you're using the right skincare products. So making sure that your barrier is intact. It's not if you get any flaking, any sensitivity, any redness, then it could mean that your barrier is impaired. So really focusing on that and making sure that you've got a good base protective layer for your skin, and then going from there. But yeah, I in the lead up to my wedding, I did peels on myself, and I did needling, which was pretty uncomfortable, but I was like, this is for a good cause. So yeah, I'd say those are the main two that I focused on, and LED. The other thing is, if you are having something like LED, you can probably have it like a couple days before the actual event. If you're having something like chemical peels and needling, you probably want to give yourself at least 2 weeks before the actual wedding day, just so that your skin can kind of calm down.
Amazing. That's such great advice. Definitely worth people finding someone that they trust in the area, going to see you if you're in the Mount, and yeah, just sort of making a plan. A lot of people don't have like a long engagement, so it might look a bit different. You're not wanting to do like really intense things the week before, like you said, but yeah, that's some great advice. Amazing. Is there anything else you want to add as we wrap up?
I think just try and enjoy the process as much as you can. It is a very stressful period, but
Mm.
if there are little moments that you do enjoy, just really just take it all on board and just, yeah, just try and enjoy yourself as much as you can, because it's something that you hopefully only do once.
Oh, so good. Love that. Amazing. We'll share some of your photos and yeah, tag your business and everything so people can find you too. But yeah, it's been so lovely to chat.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.